Hey guys, how's it going? Just got back from a couple, 3 days of work. I'm home for like a day and a half, and then I'm gone again for another 4.5 days. But then after that, I'll be basically being able to trap for like 6 weeks after that. So I'm pretty stoked about all that. But I thought what I would do is during maybe the next few days while I'm working and I'm not able to put any like cool trapping videos out there. I thought I would do some Q&A videos because honestly, I get tons of questions all the time. And I'm not going to be able to do these like in um, hour-long videos. What I thought I'd do is I'd break them down into like maybe 15-minute segments where we'd go over some questions and answers, and then do another section, and then throughout the season I can mix those in when we don't have other videos that we're doing. So I'm going to shoot one right now, try to get it up tomorrow. So you'll have some videos while I'm on the road, and keep in that trapping mode. Plus it keeps me in the trapping mode. So I'm, not always happy when I have to go and work, but I guess that's part of it. So, all right, so let's get started. I got my little list over here. I'm going to be reading these questions off this little list. I'm going to work down through here. I'm hoping to get maybe a third of the way down through this, and we'll see how it goes. Number one, I get this question all the time, and that is, what do you do about the blood at the set? And isn't that like bad for your set? And the answer is no. And the other answer is I don't really do much about it. So if you've seen any of my previous videos, you know that all I really do with a blood pool or anything like that at my set, if I when I dispatch the coyote or the coon or whatever I'm dispatching, I go over, I take it out of the set, and I move it out of my catch circle, and I go and put it in the road or in the back of the truck or wherever I'm going to do. So I'm not just getting this giant blood pool in my catch circle, but there's going to be blood in that catch circle. That's just part of it. I don't think that has any bearing whatsoever. I've never seen that have any bearing whatsoever. And let's think about this logically for a minute. What is blood to an animal like that? It's an attractant, if anything. Even if it's another coyote's blood, I don't know if they can tell another coyote's blood from a bobcat's blood, from a raccoon's blood, from a human's blood. I have no idea. But regardless, for most animals in the wild like that, blood is food. So I don't think it has any bearing, any effect. I've never noticed it to have any effect. Literally all I do is just throw some dirt over the blood and I move on. Now, what about blood on the trap? I literally take some dirt, take some debris, take some grass, whatever's in my catch circle. The catch circle's all chewed up anyway. And I basically just wipe that trap down and wipe it all down good, get all that blood and everything off the trap, and that's it. I put the trap right back where it is. The blood, or the trap's going to smell like whatever that animal is. Everything in that catch circle smells like whatever that animal is. It's not going to have any bearing on anything that you're doing. So just wipe the blood off, put the trap right back in, and just cover up the blood with some dirt or whatever. And I'm not even sure you have to do that, but that's just what I do. And it won't really have any effect. Question number 2. This is a question about lure placement. And the question is, hey, I see you talking about putting lure down inside the hole and not putting it on the lip of the hole or putting it on the back of like a rock or your grass clod. Why do you do that? The reason I do that, especially with skunk-based lures, is if you have a good lure, it's going to automatically create this rolling effect in canines. It's just the way it's going to be. Shoot, my new dog Patches, she likes to go out into the field and roll in cow manure and come home with that. That's just what dogs do. It's what canines do. They roll in stuff, anything that smells hideous. Athena, when we were trapping the other day, she found some dead armadillo and she rolled in that and came back to the truck smelling like unbelievably bad stuff. I was going to say some other words, but I probably better not because of YouTube. And I had to take her home and give her like 2 baths to get all that dead armadillo off of her. So that's what canines do. So what I have discovered over the years is if I can put the lure down inside the hole, especially if it's kind of skunky, that alleviates some of those times when you're going to show up and your trap's going to be there and it's going to be sprung, and you may have a little bit of fur, sometimes maybe not even a little bit of fur in there, but the trap's still in the bed. It's not pulled out. It's not anything. A lot of that times you're catching that shoulder, you're catching that backside of that canine as it's rolling. So I discovered over the years that if I don't put it on the lip or put it on the backing, that helps my ability to keep those animals from rolling. So now I'm just pretty much in a habit is I just stick whatever the lure is down inside the hole. If it's a call lure or something like that, like a Hellfire or a Gusto or something like that anyway, I'm going to put it on a tree branch or something up high anyway, so that's not going to be down on my set anyway. But for any other lure, I'm just putting it down in a hole. I want everything focused on down inside that hole, and I don't want them to be able to roll as much. I want them to put their nose down in there and have to dig around and move around, and then I want those feet moving. So that's what I do with that. Next question, which is kind of similar to that, was talking about how much bait and lure do you use at a set and when do you replace it? So bait, I carry this little spoon around with me and I just take a little spoonful and throw it down in that hole. You don't need a ton. You don't need a big wad of bait. Just a tablespoon is perfectly all you'll need. Lure, most of the time what I do with lure, and different guys do this different ways, I don't want to carry around any extra stuff. So basically all I do is get a stick and I stick the stick down in a bottle and take a little bit of lure on that stick and down in the hole it goes. Urine, 2 or 3 squirts of urine on the back of the hole, and that's it. When do I replace urine, lure, and bait? I only replace bait if something's eating it. That bait will last. So, I mean, if something hasn't eaten it, still down in a hole, I leave it. If it's been a week, I leave it. If it's been 2 weeks, I leave it. Lure and urine, I replace them after like a big rain. So if we get 2 inches of rain, I'll freshen up that set with some more lure, some more urine, and I will clearly put, more lure on after a catch. If the bait's still in the hole, even after a catch, I'll still use that bait and just add more lure. And I don't add any urine usually after a catch, especially if it's another canine or a cat or something like that. The whole place smells like a coyote or a fox or a cat. With raccoons or possums, you can stick some urine on there if you want. Not going to hurt anything, but the whole place is going to smell like a raccoon or a possum. So I think sometimes we can overuse lure. These noses on these critters are so much better than ours. I think we can't even imagine how much better they are. So you don't have to use a ton. Next question is kind of a different kind of question, and that is, have you ever caught Athena in a trap? If so, how many times? And how'd you keep her from getting in the traps? Good question. So clearly when I got Athena, I caught her in a trap. That's how I got her in the first place. I showed up and she was in a trap, and Steve and I found her in a trap, and she was a puppy, probably 4 months old, maybe 5 at the most. And skinny, just not taken well care of, out in the middle of nowhere land. I had no idea where she belonged. Whoever was taking care of her, if you can even call it that, was not doing a very good job. So it was clear to me that she was not in great shape. I remember looking at Steve and asking Steve, "What do you think?" And what he said was, "If you leave her out here, she's probably not going to live." So in the truck she went, and have a second dog. How did I teach her? And was there any other times I caught her? The answer is yes, once. Caught her one time in a trap, maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. And she yelped, she squalled, she cried, she bellyached. took her out of that trap. She's never been caught since. How did I teach her to stay out of the trap? So just like with any dog, you got to work with them. Just like with your kids, you got to work with them. So Athena knows how to do lots of tricks. She can stay, she sits, she lays down, she rolls over, she prays, she jumps through hoops. She knows how to get in and out of the truck, in and out of the side-by-side. She knows how to do lots of things. She's super smart and she wants to please. So all I did was, when I'm teaching her how to not do other stuff, like how to not go in the road or how to not chew stuff up, one of the commands that I will use is leave it. I'll say, no, leave it. And that's kind of what I did with her on the trap line. Every time she got close to a set, I would say, no, leave it. No, leave it. And usually what would happen is she would come to me and want reassurance. And I used to carry around a bag of treats. I mean, I still do, and I would give her a treat every single time she did that. I would give her lots of love and lots of attention and great, a really high voice, and give her a treat. And she learned very, very quickly to leave those traps alone. And then after she got caught that one time, I think that accentuated it, that she didn't want anything to do with those. And now I don't really worry about her. I kind of keep an eye on her. If I have 2 or 3 sets in an area and I'm resetting one and I got 2 more over here and she's running around, I'll kind of keep an eye on her. But for the most part, she stays away from those traps. She knows it's there and she just stays away from it. She's learned. So that's kind of how I taught her, and she's the best trapping dog I've ever had. Probably the best dog I've ever had. But next question. Why don't you show more set making? Really like to see how you set traps. I've been thinking about doing this because I get a zillion questions about this, and because I don't do that very often. And here's kind of my reasoning behind that. Personally, I don't think the set making is one of the most important things that we do. And there is a gob of YouTube videos that do nothing but show you set after set after set after set that they make. And to be quite honest, I don't know that it matters that much if you hug the hole with your trap, if you go, 8 inches back and 2 inches to the side, or you do this or you do that. I think a lot of those things they matter, and you can increase your catches, I think, sometimes when you do certain things. But in the big picture, I just don't think that's the most important thing. So what I concentrate on in my videos is what I think is the most important things. And that's why I talk so much about location. I don't care if you make the best set in the entire world and that trap is packed in there and it's the most beautiful set on the planet and it's 8 here and 2 here and this and that. If the critters aren't there, it doesn't matter what set you set. Doesn't matter how pretty it is. So I think there's other things that are more important than the actual set making. As long as that trap is solid, doesn't wobble, and you have a decent bait and lure down in the hole or on your flat set or whatever, chances are you're going to catch a lot of critters in that set if you put it in front of the critter. You have to do that. You have to put traps in front of the critter. And that's why I spend a lot of time showing you exactly where I trap and why I put a trap here and my reasoning behind putting a trap here, because I think that's where most people struggle. I was just on the phone this morning with a super good guy who lives here in the Ozarks now, and he lived out west previously, and he's having a hard time learning how to catch coyotes in the Ozarks as compared to out west, because it's completely different. Out there, the idea of where those coyotes are going to move through those draws and through thickets and through trees and cover is pretty easy to see. Here, there's a million places where they can move, and you really have to understand where those coyotes are. Otherwise, you're trying to set 500 traps on a 20-acre piece of land. So I think location is by far the number one thing, and that's why I concentrate on it. But I will, and I plan to do a couple of videos just showing how I set my traps and how I bed them and what dirt I use or peat moss or whatever, because everybody's got all that stuff out there. So I'll try to do that. And lastly, last question we're going to talk about today is, why do I always release foxes? Couple reasons for that. Number one, we don't have a ton of foxes anymore in the Ozarks. We have more grays than reds, but we don't have a ton of reds. We don't even have a ton of grays, but we definitely have more grays than reds. The reds that we have are mostly living around the suburbs. The farther you get out in the wilderness, the less grays you'll find. And honestly, because we don't have very many, and I don't feel like the foxes are doing that much horrible damage. Are they eating some rabbits? Are they eating some birds? Are they eating a few chickens here and there? Yeah. But considering we don't have that many anymore and they're not worth any money to trap, I just don't. I feel like I'm doing my part when I'm doing my part for wildlife management, and that is leaving the foxes be. I saw a red fox this morning here walking the dogs around my house, and I think I've told you in other videos, it's only been the last year, maybe year and a half, that we've seen any red foxes around here. Prior to that, I didn't see any for 5 years, and I'd only caught 2 ever in that previous 5 years. They're very rare out in the country, but now we're starting to see maybe a few more around my house and my neighbors' homes and things like that come back. But literally, I've caught like 100 coyotes in this 5-mile area around my house because all my neighbors want their coyotes gone and whatever. So I'm hoping that as we can try to keep the cow population somewhat at bay, we'll get more foxes. So that's why I do it. I'm trying to help the foxes just like I'm helping the turkeys and everything else. So, okay, hope that answered some of your questions. I have a whole another page and a half, and I'll continue to do these as we go on, but be careful out there, be safe, and I'll see you guys back on the trap line in maybe about 8 or 9 days. So we'll talk soon. Be careful.